Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
Hey, it's our trend unit, and we're going to be talking about shrinkflation. I have real examples of this, too, right here in Taiwan.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So we're talking about a phenomenon where you see the same prices for a product, but the size is suddenly shrunk a little bit.
Oh, no.
The size has been reduced.
My goodness.
Yeah, I saw this several years ago before inflation really, is kind of running away with life right now. But I thought, oh, look at that. They didn't raise their prices. They just made that little thing that I love to eat a little smaller. But I understood, they're trying to make a living and I want them to have as much profit as possible. So instead of buying one, I now buy two.
Uh-oh.
Because they're so small, I need two. They used to have very big, what do you call those? You call them...
Donuts?
No, it's got pork meat inside and it's fried. So you could call it a xianbing. But I like the pork. They also sell beef and some that don't have any meat at all. But I love this particular place, so it's okay. They make delicious little xianbings. So I'm willing to pay just as much, but just have a little smaller product. Have you experienced this, Tom?
Not consciously, but I'm sure it's out there. Of course, shrinkflation comes from the word inflation, which is when the prices go up, usually because the government is printing lots of money.
Too much money.
And the prices start going up as a result. So in this particular case, though, we're talking about things shrinking in size, getting smaller in size, instead of the price going up. But of course, sometimes the prices go up and the sizes get smaller at the same time.
Yeah.
But that's the way life is sometimes.
We call that, guys, a double whammy. Like someone hits you twice. Double whammy. Boom, boom. That's what we're experiencing now. We're going to talk about it, but first we're going to read through today's lesson.
Imagine walking into your local supermarket for your favorite drink. But wait, the price has increased. Instead of the usual 25 NT dollars, you're being asked to pay 29 NT dollars. You don't like this, so you choose a cheaper, similar-tasting drink made by a rival brand. While this price change is easy to spot, companies also employ alternative tactics designed to deceive you into thinking a product is the same value. In reality, it isn't. Welcome to the consumer nightmare of shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is when a company keeps the price of a product the same, but reduces its size. If we use our earlier drink example, the cost remains at 25 NT dollars, but the size is reduced from 500 milliliters to 475 milliliters. Consumers are much less likely to spot this, as people tend to focus on price rather than size. This trick often appears as a symptom of increased production costs. Instead of absorbing the costs themselves, manufacturers often try to pass them on to consumers. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has provided the perfect circumstances for shrinkflation to boom. Increasing costs of raw materials, transport, and labor are straining the economy and causing profits to drop. In the U.S., it's estimated that consumers are now paying up to 10% more for groceries than they were before the pandemic. Shrinkflation is likely to be seen in Taiwan, too. Consumer prices are at an all-time high and rising sharply, so it's possible that shrinkflation may be being used to disguise this. Even when production costs lower again, it's rare to see products becoming cheaper or increasing in size. While it's acknowledged that producers may have legitimate reasons to reduce the sizes of their products, they should make these changes clear to their customers. This will give people a fair chance to make informed financial choices.
Okay, guys, let's get started. We're talking about shrinkflation. Now, you might have already opened up your dictionary and you didn't find this word. It's kind of a new term. We're calling this new word something that we find in economics or economics. It's known as reducing the size of a product rather than raising the sticker price or the price that's charged for that particular thing. Or There's a restaurant here in Taiwan. I'm not going to say the name, but they make delicious little soup dumplings. And I remember when I first moved here, they gave you 10 for a certain price. And then the next time I went, they only gave you 8. And now they've just raised the price and they're still doing 8. But yeah, sometimes this happens. It's a way for a company to not obviously raise their prices, but they raise their prices because they're giving you less for the same amount of money. So shrinkflation. You could call this particular word something that has kind of a funny French-sounding term, a portmanteau, which just means we're taking 2 words and we're putting them together. So the 2 words we're putting together, of course, are shrink, which means to reduce in size, and inflation, which means the price of things continue to go up, but the dollar or the NT dollar, it devalues or it's not worth as much. So you're actually having to pay more for just everyday life and things you need for your daily survival, like food and gas.
Right, so you're paying the same prices, but you're getting smaller sizes. So here's our scenario. Imagine walking into your local supermarket for your favorite drink. Or you might be walking into a convenience store to get a bottle of tea or something like that. But wait, the price has increased. The price has gone up. Instead of the usual 25 NT dollars, you're now being asked to pay 29 NT dollars. So that's a rise in the price there. You don't like this. Maybe you're used to drinking brand A of tea that cost you 25 NT dollars before, but now you're thinking, I'm not going to give them 4 extra NT dollars for the same thing. Enough of that. I'm going to choose to another brand. So you don't like this, so you choose a cheaper, similar tasting drink made by a rival brand. So again, you choose a cheaper, similar tasting drink. You try brand B tea. It's similar tasting. It's probably not ideal. You like the first one better, but this is close enough, and it's made by a rival brand, which could be another brand, but of course, if these brands are competing with each other for market share, then they are rivals. Here, the word rival is being used as an adjective, a rival brand, or a rival company.
Yeah, if you put a noun in front of another noun, that first noun becomes an adjective, or it's acting like an adjective. Of course, it's a noun. We all have rivals in life. Some companies have rivals like Pepsi and Coke. They are bitter rivals. They hate each other. I had a rival in music school. I didn't consider her my rival, but she was always trying to compete with me to get the same parts in an opera or a musical. We have sports rivals, of course. You guys who listen know that I love the Yankees. Our biggest rival is, of course, the Red Sox. I hate them. But everyone has a rival or someone you're competing against for the same objective, or you just want to be better than they are in some sort of activity or field of business. So, yeah, you might choose a rival brand. I would probably stick with the brand I like and just pay a little bit more because I like what I like. But this happens quite a bit. This price change, if it has a price change, it's easy to see, right? We think, hey, why are they raising their prices? I don't like this. But if you use alternative tactics designed to deceive the consumer, then you might get away with it. A lot of people, Tom just admitted, he sometimes doesn't notice when things are reduced in size. I do. Because I remember thinking, wow, you get a lot for your money when I first bought that xianbing when I moved to Taiwan 16 years ago. But now I think, oh, it's so tiny. I guess I should eat less anyway, so it doesn't matter. Here's one of our vocab words, tactic. A tactic is some sort of method you use to get something achieved. It could be a military tactic, a special way to assign your armed forces to protect your country, but it could be a business tactic, some sort of action or strategy that you've come up with to achieve a particular goal. So a lot of businesses have different tactics to be successful.
A tactic is very much the same thing as a strategy, although I think of tactics as being used in military things, where strategies are more like companies, how they're going to increase their market share and stuff like that. They set up various strategies, and the tactics are kind of how they go about doing that. So, yes, these companies employ these alternative tactics. They use these different kinds of tactics which deceive you into thinking a product is of the same value. So this is a strategy they're using to make you think, I'm paying the same price, so it must be the same product, but in reality, it isn't.
I agree with Tom. I don't know if you'd find this in the dictionary, but with me, I think tactic is smaller than strategy. So you have a strategy, and then you have different tactics to accomplish that strategy. So a tactic could be a smaller method. Of course, they're doing this to kind of deceive or trick the consumer. And that happens a lot. Businesses don't want you to see that they're raising their prices. So sometimes they come up with different tactics or alternative strategies to make as much profit or even more profit, but delivering less to the consumer. It says here in the last sentence in the first paragraph, in reality, it isn't the same. It's not the same value. So welcome to the consumer nightmare of shrinkflation. It's happening all around us. Now we're going to start the second paragraph. It says here, shrinkflation is when a company keeps the price of a product the same, but reduces its size. So here is a really good definition. So if you want to know what it means exactly, or you want to tell somebody else what this new term means, here's your definition. You may not find it in Merriam-Webster or Oxford English yet, but I think eventually they will adopt this particular term because it's going to be used over and over again, and that's what happens with new words and terms. They eventually are added to dictionaries.
Indeed, and shrinkflation, of course, is when they keep the price the same but reduce the size. If we use our earlier drink example, the cost remains 25 NT dollars, but the size is reduced from 500 milliliters to 475 milliliters. That's how we measure liquid. We use liters and milliliters, and consumers are much less likely to spot this as people tend to focus on price rather than size. So they're just looking at the price there, but they're not really paying much attention to the size unless it's too obvious and they do it too often. Okay, that brings us to the midway point in our explanation for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是4月份 Unit 13 Shrinkflation Same Prices, Smaller Sizes 缩水式通膨，价格没变，分量却缩水。这是一篇篇章结构的练习题，文章介绍的内容跟大家生活息息相关。如果大家不希望在消费的时候被当作潘娜，要做个聪明的消费者，一定要好好看清楚文章内容的说明哦。好，我们先一起解题吧。不过，如同往常，在开始解题前，老师想跟大家强调，答题前要先看一下4个选项，心中要留下一个印象，可以用哪些句子让文章变得更完整。此外，篇章结构最重要的就是回填的句子要和前后文连贯，在文意概念上承先启后。所以老师要请大家记得8字真言，哪8字呢？就是前后连贯，文意通顺。秉持这个原则答题，相信任何难题都能迎刃而解。好，我们现在先解第一题，请同学看到第一题前一句，前文提到你走进超市发现最爱喝的饮料涨价了，所以选择不同牌子的饮料比较便宜，味道差不多。后一句说实际上并非如此，欢迎进入缩水式通膨的噩梦。解题的时候，老师再度提醒大家，文意前后连贯，承先启后非常重要。我们应该要在4个选项里面搜寻，为了衔接前文，内容跟产品价格调整有关，因此第一题选 B。While this price change is easy to spot, companies also employ alternative tactics designed to deceive you into thinking a product is the same value.这个选项的意思是，虽然这种价格变化很容易发现，但企业也会运用替代性技巧蒙骗消费者，让你以为商品的价值是一样的。 好，所以第一题选 B。再来，请同学看到第二题，前一句 shrinkflation 到底是什么呢？产品业者并没有调整商品价格，但是商品分量缩减了，这就是 shrinkflation 的意思。后一句则说到，消费者比较不会注意到这一点，因为大众倾向于关注价格而不是分量。因为插入选项必须保持文句前后连贯，文意通顺，我们可以推论空格是对 shrinkflation 举例说明。而选项 D 以之前的饮料为例，情况改为价格不变，仍是25元，但分量从500 ml 减至475 ml， 这就是对 shrinkflation 进一步举例说明。所以第二题答案选 D。We're
going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about a trend we're seeing around the world. And we're seeing it here in Taiwan as well. It's called shrinkflation.We're taking two words, shrink and inflation, and putting them together to describe this phenomenon where a product isn't the same size as it used to be. It could be the same price. Usually they try to keep the prices pretty level, not to scare the consumer. But the price doesn't change, but oh boy, the quantity, the quality could change.Or just the size itself. So that's what we're talking about now. It's a tactic that's used by a lot of businesses to stay in business and keep their profits going when we're seeing a lot of inflation all around the world.
So again, shrinkflation is when they reduce the size of a product, but not the price. And this trick often appears as a symptom of increased production costs.So, of course, if production costs increase, then the company does not make as much money, and the boss will be very unhappy about that, so they need to think of a way to maintain the profits. So that's why they employ this tactic or this trick. And a symptom, of course, is a sign of something, especially the sign of a disease. If you've got a cold, some of the symptoms are a runny nose, not running nose, a runny nose, and coughing, maybe sneezing, maybe a scratchy throat, stuff like that. Those are symptoms of a cold. And, of course, this trick is a symptom of increased production costs. The prices of production are going up, and they need to pass it on to the consumers.
Yeah, some consumers might think, hey, why don't they just absorb that extra cost themselves? Because companies are in business to make a profit. If you're not making a profit, you're going to shut down. So they have to pass those costs on to the consumer. Now here, that's one of our vocab words, absorb. To absorb means to take in.We use absorb when we're talking about taking in new knowledge, new information. We could say, oh, my son's like a sponge. He's absorbing everything his teachers are teaching him. So if you absorb, it goes into you. You can also use it in a physical sense, like a sponge that we use to do the dishes. If you leave a sponge in water, it will absorb that water and hold it inside the sponge. And if you want the water out, you just have to twist it, wring it out. So here we're absorbing, or at least the consumers are having to absorb the costs rather than the company, the producer of whatever product or service is offered.
Yep, the company does not want to absorb the price. They pass it on to consumers. Now, unfortunately, COVID-19 has provided the perfect circumstances for shrinkflation to boom. COVID-19, of course, has changed a lot of things in the world, and shrinkflation has boomed. If something booms, it becomes it increases a lot in a short amount of time. If something is very popular, for example, there's a boom, like if suddenly here in Taiwan, people want to learn Korean. Well, there's a Korean boom. Everybody wants to go to Bushibans and study Korean because they've seen BTS and they watch those soap operas and they just love Korean things. So there's a Korean language boom. Everybody wants to learn how to say 감사합니다.
Or you could say something is booming, which means it's really doing well, it's successful. Now, boom by itself as a noun is a sound. So if you're outside and you hear this big boom, I mean, it kind of describes the sound itself, right? Boom. But here we're talking about, as Tom said, something that's really doing well. It's thriving. It's increasing at a rapid pace. So we've got increasing costs of raw materials, just the stuff that you need to actually manufacture something like paper, wood, plastics, whatever it is. Transport or transportation. Transport would be what British people typically use. Americans like to say transportation more often. And labor. Labor costs are the amount of money that companies have to pay real people to do the work. Of course, nowadays, we're seeing more and more companies just using robots or machines to replace people. So all of these things are increasing the cost of the final manufactured product. And these things are straining the economy and causing profits to drop. To strain, just look at this verb by itself for a minute. If you're straining, you're kind of forcing something and you're making a really big effort. It takes a lot of work to do it. To strain, let me give an example. If you're a weightlifter, if you lift a heavier weight, you usually are straining your muscles to pick it up. But that makes you stronger in the end. Here it's straining the economy. It's really making the economy work hard. And it's also causing companies' profits to drop.
In the U.S., to continue, it says, it's estimated that consumers are now paying up to 10% more for groceries than they were before the pandemic. And, of course, that refers to the COVID-19 pandemic. That might be good for Americans because if they have to pay more for food, they might actually lose some weight and they won't be so obese, but it's not that easy, unfortunately. Shrinkflation is likely to be seen in Taiwan, too. Consumer prices are at an all-time high. Prices have never been this high, and the prices are rising sharply. The prices keep going up and up and up. So it's possible that shrinkflation may be being used to disguise this. So I know all of you are kind of in a hurry. You've parked your car or your motorcycle on the curb, and it's a red curb, and you want to get into the 7-Eleven and buy your drink before the cops tow your car away, so you don't have time to look at the bottle to see how big it is. But if you got the time, check it out. Maybe it's going on here in Taiwan as well.
Well, if you disguise something, of course, usually we use it to talk about someone who makes themselves look different for some reason. Maybe you're going to a Halloween party and you want to disguise yourself. You'll put on some makeup, a different outfit or costume. Or maybe you're a famous celebrity and you want to go outside to a grocery store. Sometimes they'll wear a baseball cap, dark glasses, so that no one can identify them. Moving on to the final paragraph, it says, even when production costs lower again, and we hope they will eventually, it's rare to see products becoming cheaper or increasing in size. We noticed that with fuel. When we had low-cost oil and gas in the United States, I expected the airlines to drop the price of tickets because they were charging more when our oil was really expensive and our oil and gas. Oh no, they kept them the same. Or shipping products over here from America. I expected my transportation company to lower the costs. Oh no, they were the same. So once prices go up or a product decreases in size, they usually never return to the original size.
Right, so that's probably why you should make your own tea at home and stuff like that. While it's acknowledged that producers may have legitimate reasons to reduce the sizes of their products, they should make these changes clear to their customers. So they do have legitimate reasons. If something's legitimate, it's real, it's not made up. We do have to increase the price because our production costs have gone up. We have no choice, so they have real reasons. They're not just greedy and trying to make more money from you, but but they should still let the customers know that they're doing this instead of trying to deceive them.
So legitimate, again, just means you're able to defend some sort of decision or choice with logic or a good reason. So they feel like there are legitimate reasons to reduce the sizes of their products. But the consumer just says, hey, be honest about it. Don't try to trick us. But that's business. They're always going to be trying to trick their customers or consumers. This will give people a fair chance to make informed financial choices if they don't try to hide what they're doing or disguise what they're doing. Financial just refers to money. Your financial life has to do with how you make money, how you spend money, how you save. So try to be a smart consumer and don't be deceived by these tricks that companies are trying to pull on us. You're smarter than that. Right now, we're going to listen one more time to our Chinese teacher.
接着我们解第三题，不过呢，因为第三题是段落开头的第一句，那我们先看到前一段的最后是怎么说的。前一段后面说到 This trick often appears， 这里开始一直到 consumers。这句话的意思是，我们看到厂商运用这种手法，常常就代表生产成本增加了。通常制造商并不会自行吸收成本，而是试图转嫁给消费者。那么在题干的后面，后一句说到，原物料、运输和劳动成本都上涨了，经济压力随之增加，同时导致利润下降。所以我们按常理来判断，成本获利的改变是结果，在经济运作当中，结果通常都是事出必有因，而选项 C，Unfortunately, COVID-19 has provided the perfect circumstances for shrinkflation to boom. 不幸的是，武汉肺炎提供了完美的条件，让缩水式通膨得以大行其道。这里有一个关键字就是 COVID-19， 并以 unfortunately 开头。这我们就可以看得出来，这句话的意思是，疫情呢提供了 shrinkflation 迅速发展的完美情境。接着呢，空格后面也提到，因为疫情，所有的东西价格都涨价了。全球的经济，包括美国、台湾，其实都是受害者。文意连贯通顺，所以第三题我们答案选 C。再来，请同学看到最后的第四题。前文说到，即使之后生产成本回降，我们也不太可能看到产品降价或增加分量，而下一句则以 this 开头。这句话这里面所指出来的是，让民众有公平的机会受到充分告知，可以自行决定钱要怎么花。我们可以推测，空格呢，其实在后面的句子是用 this 来代替，说明提供充分讯息给消费者。而选项 A，While it's acknowledged that producers may have legitimate reasons to reduce the sizes of their products, they should make these changes clear to their consumers. 这里所指出的是，厂商减量的策略虽然情有可原，但他们仍然应该要让消费者清楚的知道有哪些改变。这里可以衔接空格的下一句，用 this 代替选项 A 这个开诚布公的做法，说明这可以让消费者在知情的情况之下，自己决定到底要不要买。文意连贯通顺，所以第四题选 A。以上就是我们针对这一篇篇章结构所做的解题说明，希望让同学更加的清楚篇章结构的解题技巧。谢谢大家。
That brings us to the end of our program for today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully consumer prices won't go up too much in the future, and the sizes of the products won't get so small either. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.